Sometimes it just takes thousands and thousands of pounds chasing the Dumble tone to realise that actually it's not necessarily the sort of thing that really works for you. Actually, I've got a really brutal spot here, so maybe I'll just put the glasses back on for now. No, you can forgive me. Chris from up the road let me borrow his 2-Rock TS1, and I plugged it in yesterday, and I was immediately reminded of some of my experiences playing other Dumble style, Dumble clone amplifiers. So I wanted to kind of make a video about that. This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses. In the introduction there, you heard me using my guitar straight into Helix Native, using my amp in the room Helix tones, and this one was the amp in the room Dumble, roomy Dumble tone, I think it's called something like that. And that's actually to me, what I kind of think about as that sort of Dumble tone. Now, this is different for every single person, and each of the amps kind of are subtly different. I think most folks that have actually played a Dumble, even as rare as they are not getting the full Dumble experience, because people like John Mayer, apparently Mr. Dumble told him to piss off when he asked him to build him a Dumble. People, you know, I don't think Joe Bonamassa ever actually had any Dumbles that got the full experience. So that would be going to his place or talking to him and having an amp built for you. A lot of the people that own Dumbles now, and you know, like Joe Bonamassa, are playing amps that were made for someone else. So I think that is probably one big chunk of the Dumble magic that we're missing, that obviously only those original people that would have been playing them when they were built for them would really have got. The thing that I've found is that each of these clones that I've played, my first one would have been a Fuchs 4 Aces, which is a fantastic amp actually, by the way. That's the one amp I regret selling. But that's like a 4-watt version of this sort of thing. So that was my first one. Then a Cherryotone OTS 50, which is a little bit more expensive, but still on the cheaper end of like Dumble clones. A couple of VHTs. I had a Fuchs Blackjack as well at one stage. I've had a 2-Rock Classic Reverb Signature. I've played a 2-Rock Traditional Clean. I played a 2-Rock SSS. I played this 2-Rock TS1 now. I played Mick Taylor's TS1 on stage. And here's the thing, the cleans are fantastic, and I think pretty much everyone will get along with them because they're very much in that kind of hot-rodded Fender thing. You can kind of turn up that master volume and get sweet tones at like ear-bleeding volumes should you want those. You're not going to be getting too much in the way of breakup. So here's the clean. Those are Robben Ford's settings, and very loud but very clean. And I think this is probably why a lot of folks end up using, so even folks that do have a TS1 or any of the other sort of Dumble style amplifiers, often times will end up using the cleans purely because it's like a really good master volume clean circuit. Now the thing that happens is as you get onto the lead, whoa, that's loud. So these are Robben's settings, as I said. The history of the TS1 in general is that I think it started off initially as a clone of Robben Ford's amplifier, and there was like 2 of them made. I think one was made for a luthier, and then they kind of reused that name, but it's not actually based on Robben's amp specifically anymore. But I think basically what happened was 2-Rock became one of the go-to places to take a Dumble amplifier when he had long waiting lists, and over the years they'd seen quite a few Dumbles and serviced them and got to know sort of some of the inner workings. And the TS1, Tone Secret, was supposed to be like an amalgamation of some of the things that they liked about the Dumble sound, recognising of course that they're all a little bit different and trying to put something together. So one thing with this is that the drive channel I think is a little bit quieter than it would be on Robben's amp based on these settings. If you watch that pedal show and stuff like that, from Jake, who's played Robben's amp, knows that basically that drive channel is super loud and quite gainy, Take the ratio up to like 4. Now, here's kind of the problem as it occurs to me with the Dumble sound, is that this is like a super creamy, soupy, however you want to use it, like. Sound, it's like on that border of like creamy lead, fuzzy sort of thing, right? And you really get, if you try and play some, that sort of thing is where it really stands out, that this type of amp is really not going to work for like a whole bunch of people, where like, you know, you don't want to hear that, you know, Richie Blackmore playing through a Dumble. So that's, to me, what it's taken me like all of this time to kind of realise, because I thought that maybe that the more expensive towards actual real Dumble you got, that maybe that's one of the features of like a cheaper clone. But maybe that's just one of the things that comes for the ride with this type of amplifier. And if I take the bass down, I can probably get a little bit less in the farty zone and more in the creamy zone. But it remains like very mid-heavy, very barky. And I think for me, there are drive channels out there that actually get close to what I... I have to say this amp is suiting the ES335 a bit more, but this is kind of what I'm saying. It's like, even people that I do know who have Dumbles still use other amplifiers. You think about people like Scott Henderson, who's talked about the Dumble sound and, you know, had Dumbles, sold them, had a Dumble modded Bandmaster, moved on to the Cerbella, moved on from that to the Marshall SL68. You know, Mark Tremonti has Dumbles, has all of this sort of stuff, but I think the thing is that maybe they're not suited for some of these styles of music. If you're playing in a blues band, I honestly think you might have a really good time. And it's a little bit easier to play with this ES335. With the Strat, I was really finding it's like quite a stiff feel without really any sag at all. And that's not necessarily the most enjoyable thing to play in this sort of situation. In a band, I imagine that articulation and that dynamic response is going to be ideal and you be sure to be heard. But yeah, that's for me kind of the lesson with this 2-Rock TS1. You know, even folks that have real Dumbles aren't putting all their eggs necessarily into the Dumble basket. And that's maybe one of the things that, because there's only, you know, 300 of them, that most of us are never going to get to realise. Yeah, so let me know your thoughts. What's your quintessential Dumble tone? And have you found a specific kind of clone that can get you there? What do you think is the best Dumble clone that's been made? The 2-Rock TS1 is certainly up there in terms of price, so I thought that would be a fair one to kind of do the chat about, because, yeah, up till this point, I've mostly been playing sort of like cheaper clones and thought that it was maybe the clone's fault instead of actually possibly the circuits. If you check the VHT D50 posts on TDPRI, for instance, there's people that are modding the Dumbles to get closer to what they want out of their Dumbles, and I think that's probably a little bit closer to what the experience of getting a Dumble made by the guy himself would have been, right? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and yeah, if you like the toning and intro, I was using Helix Native, sorry.